The Quinnipiac rugby team was looking to bounce back from their first loss in over a year as they took on Norwich Saturday. Could they get the W?
The men's soccer team had a busy week playing 2 matches against tough competition. Will their struggles continue?
And of course, we have your top 5 plays of the week. You, me, Banks, Next 30 starts now.
Welcome to another episode of Sports Paws. I'm Jonathan Banks. Alongside me is Brian Schwartz.
Well, Jonathan, it was a jam-packed week for all Quinnipiac sports, so let's jump right into it.
Norwich University Rugby traveled to Hamden to face off against the 1-1 Bobcats. Q30 Rugby's beat reporter Kyle Levasseur has a scoop after the matchup.
Quinnipiac took the field on Saturday afternoon with a vengeance.
Everybody keeps waiting for Quinnipiac to have a building year, and we just keep answering back and saying we have no time for that, and we're just going to keep going.
Coming off only their second loss in their last 20 games, the Bobcats defeated the Norwich Cadets 52-7. Head coach Becky Carlson says the team's mentality has changed. Instead of focusing on long 100-yard runs, Quinnipiac is now focused on the collective effort of getting into the try zone.
Well, everything that we've been working on in practice finally came together. It took us another week to finally trust the system. And the system that we've been running is our buzz ball looked great today. Our ball's in the middle of the field. It shows that we have weapons all over the field.
Many of the weapons Carlson has on the field are new, as 8 of the 22 players on the roster are freshmen. Fearless is the word head coach Becky Carlson used to describe this year's freshman class. One of the 8 freshmen, Layla Scott, finished the day with 3 tries, lighting up the new Quinnipiac scoreboard. Scott's first try was the first of her career at Quinnipiac and sparked the offense into scoring 9 more tries.
I think we're molding really well. You know, it's 8 new, it's a third of the team, so we make a big contribution to the team itself, but I think we're doing well.
Quinnipiac's next match is at home next Saturday against perennial powerhouse Penn State. From the Quinnipiac rugby field, Kyle Levasseur, Q30 Sports.
Now we'll send it to Kyle, who's standing by with Flora Poole.
Do you want me looking there? Or do you want that? Okay.
Guys, thank you very much. I'm Kyle Levasseur here alongside senior 2-time All-American and 2-time National Championship winner Flora Poole. Flora, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So this year, I was talking to your head coach Becky Carlson the other day saying each year Quinnipiac, every other team is looking for Quinnipiac to have a rebuilding year, and you guys just don't have time for that. In the offseason, you guys lost 3 All-Americans. How do you think the team is responding to losing a senior class that won 2 championships and had great talent?
I mean, our program kind of the foundation is we have to adapt to change. So yes, we've lost 3 All-Americans, but we have an awesome incoming freshman class that are here, 8 strong, which is fantastic. And they're finally getting into the groove now, week 4 of school, and we're finally kind of becoming more unified. So we're having that impact. It's just adapting to change. So yeah.
You guys are 2-1 on the season with your 1 loss coming against Dartmouth. And when you look at the success of the program over the last couple of years, whenever you guys do lose a game, it kind of raises some eyebrows and it's a little surprising. It definitely surprised me. Does that raise any concerns, that loss against Dartmouth?
No. I would say, if anything, it just lights a fire in us more so. Each game is a learning experience, and we definitely take something from that loss. We don't like losing. So now we kind of remember what happened during that game and just learn from it and move on from there.
Well, we definitely saw you guys had a fire lit under you as you beat Norwich 52-7 the next week. Moving on, how does the size of the field, now that you guys actually have a regulation-sized field at home, how does that change your type of game play?
It doesn't actually change our game plan, more so. It's just we're just excited that we have so much space. We have so much speed on our squad. Just be able to run the ball wide is it's such an amazing feeling. And just having all that space, it's just exciting.
That's great. Yeah. And finally, it's your senior year. I know you're not too excited to be leaving the program, but what do you hope the legacy, not only for your career, but for the program once you leave, will be?
So my legacy or the team's legacy?
Both.
I mean, just to continue going strong as we've always been and adapting to change, like my earlier point. I hope people have learned something from me as a player and as a teammate, and maybe that some of those aspects will stay behind. But yeah, it's my time to go. So it's been a great 4 years, 3.5 years.
Flora, thank you so much for joining us. Sending it back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Kyle. Now let's take a look at women's soccer, where Dave Clark's team took on Harvard in St. Peter's.
All right, let's roll the tape. Quinnipiac taking on Harvard up in Massachusetts. Quinnipiac's final game before opening up conference play. Let's start it off in the first half, 0-0 early. Here's Jess Gargan putting a shot on net, stopped by Daniel Etzel. Still no score. Now it's Murphy Agnew crossing the ball, finding Caroline Chagaris, who scores off the redirection. Harvard leads 1-0. Later in the half, still 1-0. Nadia Gill showing off her defensive ability with not one but two sliding tackles. And then there's Emma Greco completing a sliding tackle at the last second. Oh, what a play. Harvard dominating the game early 1-0, with Greco proving to be an integral part of the defense. Here's Jess Gargan crossing the ball in, but Etzel does a good job punching the ball out of danger. Quinnipiac down 1-0. Second half, Nadia Gill makes a run into the box, finds Allie Grunstein, who scores, putting the ball in the back of the net, tying the game at 1. Let's head to overtime. Murphy Agnew coming back here. She's able to find some space and score that goal. Harvard wins 2-1 in OT.
Now let's swing it up to New Jersey, where we have the Quinnipiac women's soccer team taking on St. Peter's, coming right up on your screen. There we go. It's a Big Mac matchup. Quinnipiac facing St. Peter's. We're going up to the first half now. They're getting ready to start the game. It's all ready to go. Quinnipiac looking to improve to 4-4 on the season. Now we swing it to the first half. Passes by Nadia Gill and Al Pelletier going up there, and Quinnipiac will take the early 1-0 lead in the first half. Kelsey Goldring getting Quinnipiac's second goal. 2-0 Quinnipiac still in the first half. Quinnipiac up 2-0. Allie Grunstein to Madison Baroic, who shoots, and it's a great finish to get her third goal of the season. Quinnipiac is up 3-0 against St. Peter's. Now into the second half. Quinnipiac absolutely dominating this game, up 7-0. Lauren Azzolino scores off a header. That's a great finish to put Quinnipiac up 8-0. They are dominating St. Peter's. Now it's 10-0 late in the second half in the 88th minute, where Estefania Zavala Estrada scores her first goal of the season. Quinnipiac wins 11-0. They end their 3-game losing streak, and they're now 4-4 on the season.
All right, well, it's time to take a quick break. Coming up, we'll check out how the Quinnipiac men's soccer team did against UMass Lowell and Fordham.
And the field hockey team opened up Big East play as they traveled to Georgetown. Would they be able to start conference play on the right foot? All that and more. Stay with us.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Whether you're on the quad,
in your room,
or heading to class,
tune in to Q30 News
for stories by student journalists you can trust.
We are covering the latest here on campus and in surrounding areas.
Get the news you need to know every Wednesday night.
Bobcat Breakdown presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network.
We are your source for debate.
Did they make the playoffs last year, Tom Jenkins?
When it clicks, it clicks.
We dissect Quinnipiac athletics on a scale you've never seen before.
With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit.
Plus, we bring in the biggest names surrounding college sports.
We are live here at the Times Union Center with Jay Billis.
And of course, some comedy.
But you can only have so much arena food.
I think you're crazy.
Bobcat Breakdown.
Tuesdays at 9:30. Sports Paws is brought to you by Custom Cakes by Steve. If you can dream it, we can make it.
Welcome back to Sports Paws.
The Quinnipiac men's soccer team traveled to UMass Lowell to take on the number 25 Riverhawks. Jonathan, what did the Bobcats do?
Well, Brian, the Bobcats battled to a 1-1 draw against UMass Lowell. The 25th ranked team in the country was able to jump out to a quick 1-0 lead 5 minutes into the game. It was Chase Richenberg who netted the first goal of the game for the Riverhawks. But Quinnipiac was able to answer quickly as Derek Parker scored an unassisted goal to even the score. The goal was an absolute screamer from the outside of the box in the 60th minute. Overtime just wasn't enough to decide this one. Both teams held their own in both overtimes to end in a 1-1 draw.
Well, the Bobcats were right back at it Saturday against Fordham. Q30 Sports men's soccer beat reporter Dylan Fearon has more.
Frustration is the mood surrounding the Quinnipiac men's soccer team today. Another game in which they outperform their opponent but don't get the result. Today, a 1-0 loss to Fordham. Eric DeCosta says if you don't shoot, you don't score, and he was not wrong about that. Quinnipiac with only 4 shots, just 1 on target. Fordham didn't have too many chances either, but one that they did led to a goal. It was a miscue by Quinnipiac, and their captain takes the blame.
It's my fault. I've played a lazy, tired pass into the midfield. He broke us down. That's totally on me. It's extremely frustrating to train and put in a performance like that in the second half and not get any results.
It's about creating chances, and today I don't think we created one really good scoring chance that we can sit there and say we could have did better. And to be fair, I don't think they did either. But you know, they created one and put one in, and that's the difference.
DeCosta still claims it's not time to worry yet. His Bobcats have been playing some tough competition lately, and it doesn't get any easier. Number 16 New Hampshire enters Hamden on Saturday. Live from the Quinnipiac soccer field, Dylan Fearon, Q30 Sports.
Well, now it's time to welcome in our men's soccer beat reporter, Dylan Fearon. Dylan, thanks for coming. How's it going?
You know, Brian, I usually take my fashion tips from my mom, but I might have to start from you. I mean, that's a great tie.
Thank you, man.
All right, Dylan. So Quinnipiac has managed to score 2 goals all season heading into conference play this weekend against number 16 New Hampshire. So Dylan, why haven't they been able to find the back of the net?
I think it's a combination of 3 things. The first is Rashawn Daly. He's now the primary goal scorer with Eamon Whalen out with a groin injury, so he's the go-to guy to put the ball in the back of the net, and he hasn't done that. And I think the reason for that is he hasn't gotten, 1, the proper service, and 2, he hasn't done the right stuff once he's gotten the ball. He's not beating defenders. He's not getting the great first touch that he did last year. And Eric DeCosta said it's just like a basketball player when the point guard throws it into the center and the center just can't catch the ball. So it's just like that. He's not beating out defenders. He's not getting the great first touch that he was able to do the last 2 seasons. So you put that in with Eamon Whalen out with a groin injury, and that's a big loss. 11 goals last year. He's an all-MAC guy, Rookie of the Year last year in the MAC, and a top 100 freshman in the country. You put those 2 together, plus the fact that they've had a tough schedule, and you know, it's not the biggest shock in the world that they've only had 2 goals in 6 games.
Dylan, you touched on it, that tough schedule. It's been a tough start to the season. How big a factor is the strength of schedule?
It's a tough schedule. I mean, you just look at it on paper, it doesn't seem that tough. But then you dive into the stats, and it really is a strong out-of-conference schedule. They started the season against Boston College, lost 4-0. That's an ACC team. I don't care how bad you are. If you're a Power 5 team going up against a MAC opponent on the road, you know, it's going to be a tough game. Then they go and play UConn, and they lose in overtime. They were 24th in the country at the time. They played Fordham, who's the A10 favorite. Brown's 4-1 this season. UMass Lowell was 25th in the country at the time. And hey, guess what? They welcome New Hampshire this weekend, and the Wildcats are 16th in the country. So all those games are tough out-of-conference matches, and you know it'll bode well for them once MAC play starts. But for right now, things are very, very tough for Quinnipiac.
Now, Dylan, Eamon Whalen and Will Pastari are 2 key figures that have been out injured for the Bobcats. When are Whelan and Pastari poised to return for a team that desperately needs all the help it can get?
Yeah, desperately. I think DeCosta said at practice today that those guys are listed as hopeful. They were limited or out of practice today, along with Simon Hellinger and Derek Parker. And, you know, Whalen's got the groin injury that he got against UConn, and it's been hampering, it's been lingering for the past couple of games, so he was out of practice today. Will Pastari hurt his ankle against Brown. Simon Hellinger's been out. Derek Parker, you know, just icing that ankle on the sideline. So they've had a couple of guys that have been limited in practice and listed as hopeful to play against New Hampshire as a final tune-up before MAC play. But if not, DeCosta says they'll be good to go for Fairfield when MAC play begins next week.
So you said Fairfield next week. Do you think the goal scoring will pick up during MAC play?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're playing such tough teams. I mean, they can't wait to play the Manhattans of the world, the St. Peters of the world. You saw women's soccer won 11-0 against St. Peters. Quinnipiac will certainly get some goals against the Peahawks this season. Manhattan's a lower tier MAC team. They'll be start scoring some goals once conference play resumes. They're playing such a tough schedule. But again, if Whalen's healthy, then things will be very smooth.
Hey, Dylan, thank you. Great insight as always.
For sure, guys. Thanks.
All right, well, the Quinnipiac field hockey team headed down to D.C. over the weekend to take on Georgetown. The Bobcats came away with their first Big East victory of the season, defeating the Hoyas 2-1. Quinnipiac scored first as Anna Walmsley notched her first goal as a Bobcat in the opening half. Lauren Belsky tallied a goal in the second half for her second of the season. Sophomore Livy Golini stayed atop the Big East lead in saves with 3 more against Georgetown. That brought her total to 40, leading Maddie Lilac of Temple and Kelsey Robles of Old Dominion. The Bobcats would take their 2-5 record back home for their matchup with former MAC rival, the Monmouth Hawks.
And now, Josh Silverman, covering for Q30 Sports, was at the game with the matchup between Quinnipiac and Monmouth. Here's what he had to say after the Hawks' 3-2 win.
Coming off its first Big East Conference win, the Quinnipiac Bobcats got ready to take on the Monmouth Hawks. Head coach Beckham wanted to make sure the Bobcats didn't have a Big East hangover.
What it usually is a big letdown. What we learned last year is that you can get up for this Big East game every Friday, and then your Sunday is like, So we really challenged them not to do that this year, and I was really pleased. That wasn't the reason we lost the game. We didn't lose it for effort, conditioning. We didn't lose it for smartness. We lost it for the same reason we've lost the last 16 times, by 1 goal, and that's putting the ball in the net.
Though the Bobcats let up 3 goals, their head coach had nothing but praise for their goalie.
You know, I think what we just discussed as a team is we have those moments where we have a lull or we have a breakdown, and Livy's a leader for us, and she's one of those people that needs to get us out of that.
Perhaps one of Quinnipiac's most important players is defender Lauren Belsky, who Maine said she wants to give the ball to in crucial moments.
I mean, you definitely look for an APC and you want Lauren Belsky to have the ball. She has one of the best sweeps in the country, and even twice today, I think Monmouth has a great fly. She got out twice on her, and Lauren still put one sideways on the post and ended up putting one on pretty quickly. So I want Lauren to have the ball to put the ball in the net.
Yet another 1-goal loss. Head coach Beckerman's message to her team was finish. Bobcats lost to the Monmouth Hawks 3-2 here at the Quinnipiac Bobcats Sports Complex. However, they will get a chance to rebound when Liberty comes to town on Friday. Q30 Sports, I'm Josh Silverman.
Coming off its first...
Well, it's time to take another short break. When we come back, we have volleyball highlights and, of course, the top 5 plays of the week. Don't touch that dial.
Whether you're on the quad,
in your room,
or heading to class,
tune in to Q30 News
for stories by student journalists you can trust.
we are covering the latest here on campus and in surrounding areas.
Get the news you need to know every Wednesday night.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning After.
Coming Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Sports Paws is brought to you by Custom Cakes by Steve. If you can dream it, we can bake it. Welcome back to Sports Paws, everyone. The Quinnipiac women's volleyball team traveled up to New York to take on the Manhattan Jaspers in their first MAC game of the year. Let's take it to the hardwood for a look at the action. Now we have the first MAC game of the season for Quinnipiac against Manhattan. Let's take it on to the first set. QU looking for some action, they serve it. It finds its way back to the Quinnipiac side after a return by Manhattan, where number 13, Jamie Termoto, will get the kill for the Bobcats. That is a good foreshadowing of the first set as Quinnipiac takes the first set, headed to the second set now where Quinnipiac will find themselves on the attack again. Michelle Cuervo gets up and with the kill right off the Manhattan player. It is now 5-2 in the second set for Quinnipiac. And they will rally, and Quinnipiac gets the score again. Everything is going Quinnipiac's way right now. We're in the third set. Quinnipiac looks to return the serve where it's number 10, Maria Pinsari, with an amazing ace. They're up 3-0 in the set. Still the third set. Manhattan scrambles to get this one over, but it's Jen Coffey of Quinnipiac with the easy kill. Quinnipiac goes on to sweep Manhattan 3-0, and that is your final from New York.
Well, the Bobcats stayed in New York to face another MAC opponent, the Iona Gales. Iona defeated the Bobcats 3-2. Junior Jen Coffey led the way with 20 kills in the matchup. Sophomore Alejandra Rodriguez tallied 20 digs. Maria Pansari had 20 assists and a career-high 17 digs. Freshman Gabby Harmon had a career-high 6 blocks to lead the Bobcats. Ultimately, Claire Archibald and the Gales were too much. The Iona junior had a career-high 26 kills. Bobcats play their first home game of the year Saturday at 1 in the Bert Kahn Court against St. Peter's.
Now we have the Quinnipiac men's tennis team. They went north to Storrs, Connecticut to compete in the Yukon Invitational this past weekend. Quinnipiac's Julian Rosenstein and Hilke Moore both went home to take the championship in the Flight A singles and Flight C singles respectively. Rosenstein had 4 wins over the weekend, taking home the championship in the final match. Hilke Moore also had a very good weekend for the Bobcats, winning the Flight C final in 2 games to also pick up his 4th win of the weekend. The Quinnipiac men's tennis team will now have a very, very deserved break until Friday, where it hosts the Quinnipiac Invitational at the Quinnipiac Outdoor Tennis Facility.
The Quinnipiac women's tennis team hosted the Quinnipiac Invitational in Hamden over the weekend. Freshman Peyton Bradley and sophomore Elia Rodriguez had 2 doubles wins Saturday. The only match for the Bobcats Sunday featured Jennifer Liu and Dominique Vassal. The Bobcats fell to Fordham 7-6. Next up for Quinnipiac is heading up to West Point next weekend to square off in the Army West Point Invitational.
And Ryan Ansell had a weekend to remember. The Quinnipiac Junior had a career run to push the Bobcats into 5th place out of 7 teams at the Monmouth Invitational, getting 5th place overall, making this the first top 5 finish of Ryan Ansell's career. Quinnipiac scored 118 points as a team, finishing ahead of Lafayette and Army. Marist ended up on top of the Monmouth Invitational. Quinnipiac has a week off before they regroup and travel to the campus of Lehigh University in Pennsylvania to take part in the Paul Short Run on Friday.
The Quinnipiac women's cross-country team had a successful weekend at Homedale Park. The Bobcats finished 2nd out of 8 in Monmouth Invitational. They totaled 44 points, just 10 behind the winner, the Marist Red Foxes. Emily Wolf finished 2nd overall, and Kaylee Roberts took 3rd individually. Those finishes are the highest overall spots for each in their Quinnipiac careers. The Bobcats now have a week off before they head to Lehigh University for the Paul Short Run.
Well, Brian, now is the time that we've all been waiting for. It's the top 5 plays of the week. Let's get to it.
All right, let's take a look at the top 5 plays of the week. I'll get the odds, you get the evens, Jonathan. Let's start off at number 5, Quinnipiac women's soccer. Let's take it to the tape now where Allie Grunstein has the ball. She crosses it up to Lauren Azzolino, who heads it in for her first career collegiate goal. Quinnipiac defeated St. Peter's 11-0.
Yeah, now we got number 4. Let's take it to the hardwood again. Volleyball. Michelle Pinsari sets the ball to Michelle Cuer with no regard for humanity. Strikes the ball with authority. Quinnipiac sweeps Manhattan. He's taken 3 sets.
Number 3, Nadia Gill dribbles past several Harvard defenders, passing to Allie Grunstein, who puts it in the back of the net. Quinnipiac lost to Harvard 2-1 in OT.
And Brian, to pick up on your point, play number 2. Here's that overtime goal by Harvard. Aggie Murphy crosses the ball to Danny Stoller, who with an absolute dime of a header gets it past Olivia Majewski. Quinnipiac suffers its 3rd consecutive loss.
Number 1 play of the week, Alona Marr breaks 4 tackles. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. To get her 2nd try against Norwich. Quinnipiac defeated Norwich 52-7.
Wow. Yeah, Brian, I was just going to say that was an exhilarating amount of top 5 plays there. It was great to see Quinnipiac and the other teams all doing well.
Also good to see the rugby team get back after the first loss in over a year.
Yeah, they lost to Dartmouth 22-17 prior to their 52-7 win over Norwich, and now they face Penn State next week. That's going to be an exciting game.
It will be. Penn State, obviously a top team in the nation. Well, it looks like the time is up for this episode of Sports Paws. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports and check out our website, Q30TV.com. For Jonathan Banks, I'm Brian Schwartz. We'll see you next time on Sports Paws.